Let's get more on this story with Rami Khouri. He's a journalism professor and a journalist in residence at the American University of Beirut. Rami, thank you very much for joining us. Now, Benjamin Netanyahu is claiming that AlJazeera is inciting violence, is supporting terrorism. We saw that video that is so controversial in our report of that Israeli soldier kicking a praying Palestinian. Is there any basis to what Netanyahu is saying?
Well, what's controversial is not the video. What's controversial is the Israeli soldier kicking a Palestinian who's praying at one of the most important Muslim holy sites. And it's the consequence of a 50-year-old occupation. So that's news. And good news stations like yourselves and like AlJazeera and others cover the news. So I don't think there's any validity to the claim of incitement. There is a conflict going on. If Netanyahu wants to say that the Palestinians and the Israelis are locked in a conflict and Arab networks like AlJazeera are covering it honestly, that's what he should say. That's not incitement. What's going on is a terrible conflict that needs to be resolved politically. Until that happens, all sides are going to try to cover the news as they feel is the most efficient and appropriate way to do it. And AlJazeera is trying to be a very honest, professional network that gives Israeli views as well as Palestinian views.
Okay, Rami, but Israel is a democracy. So how can the government just take AlJazeera off the air? Can it?
Well, it's a democracy mainly for the Jewish Israelis. For Palestinian Israelis, they have clearly less rights in many different aspects of life, even though on paper they're all the same. And what Israel can do is, in the name of security, it can do anything it wants. It can lock people up. It can put them in jail without trials. It can expel people, lay siege to Gaza. It can do anything it wants. And most of the world more or less lets it do that. It's unfortunate. It's part of weakness of human nature, I guess. But this is how the world works. And they can claim security threats and close AlJazeera and expel people, censor the news as they've been doing for years. Arab Gulf states like the Saudis and the Emiratis and others are trying to do the same thing by saying AlJazeera promotes terrorism or incites Muslim brothers to overthrow governments and stuff like that. And these are equally exaggerated, really not credible claims.
Rami, just briefly, if you can, what do you think this says about the state of press freedom in Israel, also for other networks?
Well, it's a very dangerous development in Israel where the press generally, especially the Hebrew press, has a lot of freedom. The Arab press under occupation doesn't, but the Israeli press has a lot of freedom. And many Israelis are really worried about this because if you start with AlJazeera, then who are you going to close next? You're going to close a left-wing progressive Israeli publication or some other publication, the international publication that covers the news. So it's very dangerous. And all over the Arab world and in Israel and in Turkey, we have serious, and Iran, we have serious problems with freedom of expression.
All right, Rami Khouri, a journalism professor at the American University of Beirut. Thank you very much.
Thank you.